All right, hello everybody. Today it is Sunday, not December, it's February 21st. It's so fucking nice outside right now. Let me say, I was just out there checking my oil. It's like, oh my God, it's 27. It's supposed to hit 39 today, which is fantastic. But today I have for you the books I read this past week. There are five of them, and I will say 3 out of 5, fantastic. I think I gave 3 out of 5 of these books 5 stars. And then I have 3 star and a 1 star, so that's fun. But first up, starting off with The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. This is a young adult thriller about this girl whose older sister was part of this group of cheerleaders who all died mysteriously 5 years before, and she is starting kind of to realize that there might be something more to it than just two of these girls got murdered, two of these girls got in a car accident, one of these girls killed herself. And so she goes around, tries to figure out what's going on. I very much enjoyed this one. I know uh, it's had a couple of mixed reviews, but I really liked it. I thought that it was really interesting how all the red herrings were actually involved in some way. None of them were completely disengaged from the story. I liked the writing. I liked the characters. There was a weird amount of sexual tension between the main character and this other girl that I knew was never going to get resolved, but it was fun anyway. And I liked the twist at the end. I just thought it was a very fun thriller. I know, like, I read a lot of thrillers, but I just have such an unabashed, like, excitement for them that, like, I don't even care when they're predictable or when they're kind of lame. Like, it was just fun. And really, this character was, like, a little bit dumb sometimes, but that's always fun, too. I think I really, really enjoyed this one. I think I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars, not gonna lie. I had a lot of fun, and I know she's written a lot of other, like, young adult thrillers, and I'd be very interested to pick those ones up as well. Then I picked up The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This is actually my first adult Neil Gaiman book I've ever read. I read Coraline and the Graveyard Book when I was in high school. But this one is about a man who goes home to his, like, childhood home, and he starts remembering all the kind of weird stuff that happened to him one year. Involving these women who lived at the house at the end of the lane, most particularly their 11-year-old daughter. And I liked it. It's got that trope in it where I don't want to spoil it, but if you've read it and you've read this one, there are some very heavy similarities with it, and it's a trope that always makes me very sad. But I really liked it. It was very imaginative. I know some people have had problems with it being it's not explained. Like, it's magical and, like, there's no explanation. And honestly, I like that a little bit more. I hate slogging through just pages and pages of magic system. That's why I don't get along with Brandon Sanderson. But it was just like whimsical. It was just fun and scary. I mean, like, it was a dark book. Like, there were some moments in there that was just actually, like, actually frightening, and it was kind of disgusting at points, and I really enjoyed it. I know that I need to read more Neil Gaiman because he is a phenomenal writer. Like, the writing in this book was absolutely fantastic. It was so descriptive in the way that made you see, like, this is, like, what needed to be described. Like, it was just awesome. Like, it wasn't like, this is exactly what the main character looks like, but it was like, these are these mysterious things that are happening, and you're gonna see them in your mind's eye. I really enjoyed it. I read this book in like a day, because it was just fun and good and fast. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. All right, then we've got our 3 star, and this is a book that I read to teach it. That is Nightjohn by Gary Paulsen. This will be for the 7th graders once they finish up the Misfits. It is a very short book. It's about 90 pages long, and it's about a young slave girl, who is being taught to read by a guy named Nightjohn, who actually escaped slavery and then came back to teach slaves how to read. And it's a very important book. This is the guy who wrote Hatchet, which I didn't enjoy very much. I just don't really like his writing all that much. But I do think that the kids are really gonna like it. It's very brutal, actually. Like, it's like a middle grade book, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite so brutal. Like, obviously we all know that slavery was a very brutal thing, and it's still around in some places, but I wasn't expecting them to go so far into detail. And they did, which is, I think, honestly, a little bit admirable. So it was all right. I didn't have anything against it, but slavery is not my favorite historical fiction thing to read about. If we're gonna do that era, at least bump it up to the Civil War. And I don't like Gary Paulsen's writing all that much. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Hatchet either, so I end up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. It's a good book, not really for me. I think the 7th graders will really enjoy it though. Right, then I have my 1 star. That is Wolf's Mate by Celia Kyle. This is an erotica novel that is about shifters. The main characters are a cougar shifter named Abby, and a wolf shifter named Declan, I believe. Yes. And so it's like, it does have this weird convoluted plot where it's like there are these like shifters, or like normal people don't know about them, and like Abby works for this accounting firm and she sees something she's not supposed to see, and then they're after her, and then the shift organization's after her, and so but the wolf inside of him wants her. And that's the thing that they always keep talking about, the animals inside of them, and it's weird. It's not particularly well written. There are several almost sex scenes, but only 1 actual sex scene, and again, not particularly well written. I know I don't read a lot of erotica, and I know that I generally don't like erotica unless it's written by Elliot Wake, because Elliot Wake's a fantastic writer. Celia Kyle is not. So I won this book from Goodreads, by the way, so it sucks for them that they wasted this on me, but it's just, it wasn't particularly well written. The characters weren't well done at all. I did enjoy some of the side characters, but they were very one-note. They were just kind of fun. I liked Grant. He was just, his running joke was just that he was always hungry. But it just wasn't well done. It wasn't well written. It wasn't fun to read. By the end of it, I was skimming. And like I said, there were a couple of near sex scenes, but mostly it was just him thinking about how her ass looked when she did a little dance. Like, it was just not good. I gave it 1 star. This is, so far, has the honor of being the worst book I've read this year, which is difficult. It's interesting that I got it this soon in the year. Normally I give like maybe 1 or 2 1 stars a year, like tops. Like I'll give a good amount of 2 stars, but 1 stars are very few and far between. The last one I gave 1 star was Mercy by Jodi Picoult, and I genuinely hated that book for mostly 1 reason, but I normally don't give 1 stars because it's just bad. That was this one. But we're clearing it out on a good one. We're clearing it out on another 5 star. That is Fargo Rock City by Chuck. It's Chuck Klosterman. This is a memoir from a guy who grew up in Wyndmere, North Dakota, which is a small town. I did actually look it up. It had, as of the 2010 census, it had, I believe, 489 people in it. So my town was smaller. When I grew up, mine currently has 87 people in it. But it's about this Chuck Klosterman, and he goes through it goes through kind of chronologically from when he first kind of started listening to heavy metal, but it mostly talks about what heavy metal really meant to him and what it meant to a lot of people. And I really liked how he thought about this. And I mean, I agreed with him on a lot of stuff. Like, he does have a chapter which is like, heavy metal's just sexy, man. And I agree with that. And he also, he just dove into a way that I found really appealing. I write quite a few like music essays that are kind of similar to this, and it's just nice to kind of connect with something. And I did really connect with this because he was a heavy metal fan who grew up in a small town in North Dakota, and so am I. And so it is very, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I could really understand in here, and I got like all the references, which I also really enjoy. It was just something that really connected with me in a really personal way. So I do want to say, like, some people have some problems because he's a young man, and there are a couple of he's not super young anymore, I guess. This came out in 2001 when he was like 30 or so. But there are some things in there that people could, I mean, if you listen to a lot of lyrics, a lot of heavy metal songs, there is, I mean, he does talk about this too, so it's like, it's kind of sexist a lot of the times. I mean, you listen to a lot of Motley Crue, and you think about how they treated women. So if you are sensitive to that sort of thing, he does talk about it, and he does make an argument that it doesn't really matter because most of these are just acts, which I do kind of agree with. I mean, there are some, these songs are not meant to be taken completely seriously, and the danger comes when people do start to take them seriously, but they're not meant to. They're just meant for fun, which I do understand his point there, and I kind of agree with it. I'm talking fast now because I'm kind of running out of time because I have laundry in and I've got like 5 minutes left. But so I do think that that is something that's a stance that, while I agree with it, I can see where a lot of people don't. So again, this is a book that I really enjoyed because it connected with me a lot personally. But if you don't have that kind of personal, like, I mean, this book was like practically written for somebody in my situation, you know, like if you don't have that, like if you're not from a small town in North Dakota, if you're not a fan of like heavy metal and stuff like that, you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But I mean, I liked it enough that I'm planning on getting his other books just to see what he thinks, because he's like a pop culture critic writer kind of thing. And I'm very interested to see how he thinks about other things. So I've got like all of his other books, my thrift books wish list. Yeah, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars too. I would not be surprised if this was one of my favorite books of the year. Oh, these plus Nightjohn are the books I read this past week. I've been averaging pretty nicely at about 5 books a week, which is honestly pretty great, especially considering I have a nice full-time job. But yeah, that is all I have for today. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.